She found the perfect Hong Kong apartment at 30% below market price, and the only catch was that someone had died inside it. But that wasn't the part that should have scared her. She moved in anyway, told herself it was just a flat, and for exactly 11 days she almost believed it. What do you do when you realize the person who died in your home never actually left? This actually happened. And if you have ever lived in Hong Kong, really lived there, crammed into some tiny flat where the walls feel like they breathe with you, then you already know that what I am about to tell you makes a horrible kind of sense. A few years ago, a woman we will call May was looking for an apartment in the Prince Edward area on the Kowloon side. She had been searching for weeks. Good flats in Hong Kong disappear fast. You blink and someone else already signed. So when May walked into a small real estate office on a quiet side street and saw a listing for a large, clean, 2-bedroom unit at nearly 30% below everything else, her heart jumped hard. She thought, this has to be a mistake. It was not a mistake. The agent was a soft older man who put down his pen before she even asked. He looked at the desk, not at her, and explained in a calm, flat voice. Hong Kong law says agents must tell you. The person before had died inside, an unnatural death. A suicide. The flat had been empty for almost 8 months. Every other unit in that building had been taken within days. This one just sat there. When May told her co-workers about the ones born in Hong Kong, who understood the city the way you only can when you grow up inside it, they all reacted the same way. Wide eyes and a quick breath, a firm shake of the head. Do not. In the way Hong Kong people think about these things. Under a place where someone dies, an unnatural death carries a weight that has no good English word. The energy of a brilliant, unfinished end soaks into a place like water soaks into old wood. Her co-workers were not being dramatic, they were being honest. But Mai walked through the apartment 3 times. White light came through the windows and it made everything look clean and ordinary. The kitchen had more space than anything else she had seen at this price. She stood in the second bedroom and waited for some bad feeling to arrive. Nothing came. It is just a flat, she told herself. Someone died here and it is sad, but it is just a flat. She signed the lease on a Wednesday morning. The first week felt normal. She unpacked her boxes, learned the light switches, found a noodle shop 2 streets over where the broth smelled like star anise. Except for one small thing she almost did not notice. A smell. Faint. Stale. Onion cigarette smoke from nowhere she could find. Only at night, after 10, when the building went quiet and never when a window was open, she decided it was stuck in the walls and bought a plug-in air freshener. Then on a Tuesday night in her second week she came home late, put her key in the lock, and it would not turn. She stood in that narrow, buzzing hallway for 10 full minutes before the lock gave with no warning, and the door swung open like nothing had ever been wrong. She stepped inside. She set her bag down. She stood still. Then from the second bedroom, empty, no furniture, nothing. She heard the slow, soft creak of someone shifting their weight on the floorboard. May did not move for a full count of 5. She stood in the hallway with her shoes still on and her keys still in her hand, and she listened. The creak did not come again. The flat was silent in that thick way that feels almost loud. She told herself it was the building settling. Old buildings in Hong Kong make noise. Oh, the floors expand at night when the heat finally lets go. This was a reasonable thing. She believed it because she needed to. She did not open the door to the second bedroom that night. She made instant noodles, watched something on her phone with the volume too high, and went to sleep with the lamp on. That was the first night she slept with the lamp on. She would not sleep without it again for the rest of the time she lived there. The next 3 days were quiet, or were quiet enough that she started to feel embarrassed about being scared of a creak. She opened the second bedroom door in the daytime and looked at the empty room. Wood floor, white walls, one window with a thin curtain the previous tenant had left behind. Nothing wrong. She even laughed a little at herself and closed the door. That night, she woke up at 2:17 in the morning. She knows the exact time because she looked at her phone the moment her eyes opened. Though she was not pulled slowly out of a dream, she was just suddenly awake completely, like a switch had flipped. Her lamp was on. The room looked normal, but the air smelled strongly of cigarette smoke, not faint this time. Strong, warm and close, the way it smells when someone is standing right next to you. Her eyes moved to the corner near the window. She told herself she saw nothing. But she wrote later that the darkness in that corner looked too thick and too still, and that she stared at it for a very long time before she pulled her blanket up and shut her eyes. Things in her flat started moving. Small things at first. Her phone charger, always left on the kitchen counter, was on the bathroom floor one morning. A glass from the drying rack was on the kitchen table. The kind of things that make you say, I must have done that and forgotten. May said that to herself many times. She is a practical person. She works in logistics. She likes things to make sense. But then one evening she came home and the curtain in the second bedroom was pulled all the way to one side. She had not touched it. The window was closed and locked. There was no draft. She stood in the doorway and looked at it for a long time, then pulled it back to the center and called her friend Ling, just to have a voice in the flat with her. She did not tell Ling what was happening. Near the window, one floorboard was worn smooth and slightly dipped in the middle. The way wood gets when someone has stood in the same spot for a very long time. She looked at that spot and felt cold, even though the room was not cold. May did something brave or foolish depending on how you look at it. On a Saturday afternoon with full sunlight coming through every window, she went back to the real estate office to ask about the person who had died in her flat. The same soft older agent was there. He looked at her the way people look at someone who has come to ask a question they already know the answer to. He told her what he could. The previous tenant had been a man in his 50s. He had lived in that flat for over 20 years. He had no family in Hong Kong. Neighbors said he rarely left. In his last years, he almost never left at all. He smoked heavily. He spent most of his time in the second bedroom, looking out the window at the street below. He died by his own hand. And it took 4 days before anyone found him. He was found near the window. Near the worn spot on the floor. May walked back to the flat slowly that afternoon. She thought about a man standing at that window for 20 years, watching the street below, completely alone. She thought about how a person can become so much a part of a place that the place remembers them, the way wood remembers weight. She felt sad, but she also felt something tighten deep in her stomach that sadness alone does not explain. That night was the worst night yet. She woke up just after 2 in the morning. The lamp was on. The smoke smell was there, thick and warm and very close. She lay still, stared at the ceiling and told herself to breathe slowly. There is nothing here. Just breathe. Then she heard something from the hallway outside her locked bedroom door. Not a creak this time. Footsteps. Slow and steady. The sound of someone walking down the short hall from the second bedroom toward her door. 5 steps, the exact number of steps that hallway holds. The footsteps stopped right outside her door. She could hear her own blood moving in her ears. She did not breathe. She watched the door handle. It didn't move. The flat was silent for 1 full minute that felt like something much longer. Then, quiet as a whisper, she heard breathing. Slow and steady, right on the other side of the wood. Less than 2 feet from her face. She turned on her phone flashlight and pointed it at the thin gap under the door. A shadow crossed it, the shape of 2 feet standing perfectly still. This was the moment she later said explaining things away became impossible. Her brain, which had been working so hard for 2 weeks to find good reasons for everything, simply went quiet. What she felt instead was clear and simple. She was not alone in her flat. She had never been alone in her flat. And she sat with her back against the headboard until the sun came up. In the morning she walked to the second bedroom. The door was open. She always kept it closed. On the window glass just above the worn spot were long finger marks pressed from the inside, pointing down at the street below. May packed a bag and called Ling. May stayed at Ling's place for 3 nights. She told Ling everything, and Ling did not laugh or tell her she was imagining things. Ling is also from Hong Kong. She understood, without needing it explained twice. On the second night, Ling's grandmother, a small woman in her 80s, sat across from May at the kitchen table and listened to the whole story without saying a word. When it was done, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said simply, "That man is not ready to leave. He does not know he has to." Ling's grandmother knew a temple she trusted. She knew a monk there who had helped families with these situations before. This is not unusual in Hong Kong. This kind of help exists because this kind of need exists, and the people there understand it practically, the way they understand needing a plumber or an electrician. You find the right person. You make the call. May went back to the flat with Ling and the monk on a weekday morning. She stood in the hallway outside her own front door with her keys in her hand and felt her chest go tight. The monk was calm and quiet. He carried incense and spoke prayers in a low voice that seemed to fill the flat in a good way, pressing into corners the way warm air fills a cold room. They moved through each room slowly. When they reached the second bedroom, the monk stopped in the doorway for a long time. He looked at the worn spot on the floor near the window. He looked at the smudges on the glass, still there, still pointing down toward the street. He nodded slowly, like he was confirming something he already knew. When he told May, through Ling translating, that the man had lived a very lonely and very small life in his last years, that the flat had become his whole world, that he did not understand or could not accept that the world had moved on without him, that he was still standing at that window because standing at that window was the only thing he had known how to do for a very long time. The ceremony took about an hour. May sat in the living room with Ling and held a cup of tea that went cold in her hands. When the monk came out, he said it was done. He said to keep the window open for 3 days to let clean air through. He said to leave a small cup of tea on the floor near the window for 3 nights, as a gentle goodbye to someone who had lived and suffered and deserved to be spoken to, with kindness even in leaving. May did all of it. From the first night after the ceremony, the smoke smell was gone. Not faded. Gone. The creak near the window never came back. The flat became a good home. She left the curtain open in that second bedroom from that day forward. She figured he had spent enough years staring at that street. Someone should finally look at it and feel okay.